This is the President. Hello, this is the President of the United States. Who is this? Is it you again?
Look behind you.
This is my private line. How did you get through?
They're everywhere. All the time. We see them every day. But you have to look behind you.
There is nothing behind me. How did you get this number?
The spaceman told me.
What spaceman?
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you about monsters. Please, you must look behind you.
Young lady, there are no monsters in the Oval Office.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said,
Wait, Sammy.
the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Ground Zero coming to you live tonight from FM News 101 KXL in Portland, Oregon. Heard round the world thanks to the internet, groundzeromedia.org and KXL.com. Stitcher Radio provides the link up, and you out there, I'd like to say hello. Thank you for tuning in tonight. We're here as we are every night, Monday through Friday from 9 to midnight, and the best of from 9 to midnight right here on KXL. And as Byron Beck said earlier, we are riding the wave, ladies and gentlemen, a huge wave of information that seems to be ongoing, that goes beyond what the politics are telling us, that goes beyond all of it. This is a different world. This is the world of Ground Zero, where we talk about things that are far more intriguing and far more compelling. And tonight, I am very happy to say that we have a more compelling, fascinating, remarkable guy. I can't say... If I was to talk all day about what I think of James Fox, I think that he'd think that I'm blowing smoke or something, but it's not true. I mean, this guy has done a lot for ufology. This guy has put together one of the greatest films. I Know What I Saw. I've watched it. I loved it. He was on Larry King. I was first impressed when he was on Larry King talking about some UFOs and stuff, and he was very crucial in getting the information about the Stevensville UFO case in Texas. In fact, I just finished watching Chasing UFOs. This is a remarkable new documentary from National Geographic. It starts airing tomorrow night. And if you want to know why all of this information is out about UFOs, aliens, whether or not Obama or Mitt Romney is capable of leading us into the promised land with the aliens, is because of what National Geographic has been doing. They have done a great job in getting the word out about this special, and for good reason, because it is a remarkable special. We're going to talk now with James. James, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
My gosh, I'm flattered that intro was gosh, what can I say? I can only thank you tremendously.
Well, this is your first time on the show, and I have to guide you gently here, because we do talk very, very straight about these UFOs. We talk about aliens, we talk about everything, and we do so in a manner that a lot of people consider underground. But we do it because I believe that we got to have a little cutting edge going on here, because, I don't know, James, if you know this or not, but we have a lot of people, and your documentary, the National Geographic show demonstrates this. There are a great amount of people that don't know how to deal with the subject matter of UFOs. I watched when you were in Dublin. I watched when you were in Dublin, Texas, and you had that meeting with those people, and the look on their faces, you cannot describe. It was almost like you were having a group therapy session.
Well, could you imagine how alienating, and no pun intended,
right,
that experience would be? I mean,
right.
Sorrells told me he never felt so alone. Even his wife and his children were questioning his integrity.
That's that big guy, right? That got up there and
exactly.
He was that big teddy bear of a guy.
Oftentimes I find that Because a lot of people, quickly, critique something. They'll say, "Oh, well, these people are just looking for attention." And I was like, "You have no idea. It couldn't be further from the truth. The better the witness, the less likely he is to want to come forward, and the more difficult it is for me to persuade them to come forward. Like with Ricky, it took me months.
Mm-hmm.
I met with him in person, and he wouldn't do it. He called me. I think it was like 3 months later, and finally granted me an interview. But he's like, "Look, I don't need to prove to anyone what happened. This is what happened. This is what I saw, and that's that."
Well, when you see the special tomorrow night, you'll see this guy that James and the crew are talking with, and he comes forward. He's this big guy. Looks like you sit down and have a beer with him, go hunting with him or whatever. Just a big guy, big lug. And the guy's practically in tears. He looks like he's about ready to break down and say, "I felt so alone. No one would listen to me, and here's what happened." And then what happens is your crew goes out there, and my gosh, you find this, you find out that he's not blowing smoke. He is actually, he sees something. You see something. You get it on tape. It's an amazing thing.
Well, one thing I'll share with your listeners out there, which is truly phenomenal, and please don't let me to forget. I want any of your listeners out there that has a great story, particularly a great story with evidence, I'd love to hear it for possible consideration in future shows. To please, with sugar on top, contact me through my website. I know what I saw, themovie.com. But when I was interviewing Ricky Sorrells this last time, this is phenomenal, by the way. I really hope you guys get a kick out of this, because this did not make it in the episode because, you'll see why. We finished, we were in downtown sort of Dublin area at the Grist Mill. I think it was like, the Grist Mill's been around since 1890-something.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a reported UFO crash that made headline news back in 1891 at this Grist Mill. So we're like out there going to do some research, look for possible bits of debris. Apparently that was little bits of fragment. And we thought, what a nice spot to interview Ricky Sorrells. So we did the interview. At the end of the interview, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm walking away, and this gentleman walks up, plain clothes. He pulls out a badge, and he said, "Sir, can I talk to you for a minute?" And I thought, well, this is odd. And he shows me his badge, and he's sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, sure. He says, "I need to talk to you about the incident." So I said, I motioned to one of my co-producers and said, "Look, I'll be right back. I'm going to go have a coffee." And we walked up the street, this police officer, and we had he sort of looked over to his left, looked over to his right. He was kind of paranoid. And he said, "I'm a local police officer, and I want you to know that what Ricky Sorrells saw, we saw. I myself saw it." And he said it was so low and so big. And it wasn't that late. And he said there were cars like driving under it. Like, it was about 7:30, I think is what he told me. He put his radar gun on it and said it was doing roughly 22 miles an hour, absolutely silently. And he said it was the size of 2 department stores. So he also said that, and this is interesting, you get a police officer, and he's active, he's not retired.
Right.
And he says that all 5 officers in the surrounding area saw this thing, and that not only did they see it, but one of them got video footage of it with their video cam in the car. Footage was taken back to the station and reviewed, and the local Air Force, I guess they were in touch with the local Air Force base, had asked to have it, and they took it, and of course that was that. But he said, "I just want you to know that, Ricky Sorrells is not crazy. I saw it too. We cannot come forward."
That's amazing, because there are, and oft times I get letters from police officers who listen to this program. I know the Portland Police Bureau listens, and I know that we've had a number of police officers who say near the Columbia they see UFOs all the time, and I get reports of them. In fact, I had a guy who was a retired police officer. I was in McMinnville, Oregon, for the UFO festival they have there because I want to go. You need to go. You and the crew need to go, and the reason why is because you'll have a lot of fun. It's hometown. You can get the whole idea about the Trent stuff. Okay? All right. Well, what we'll do is you and I need to keep in touch, because I'm going to be there next year. I know I am, because we had a big turnout this year. I'll be there next year, and then what I will do is I will work with you guys there, and we can get some good stuff going on. I think you'd have a lot of fun. They usually have it in May, June. You know, it's usually when it starts getting warm again, and it's very fun because it's out there in the middle of nowhere because it's McMinnville. But it's a nice town. It's a great town, great people. I always go there for ice cream. You have great ice cream there on the ice cream parlor down there.
Oh, I love it. It looked like the town hasn't changed a whole lot since the 50s.
Well,
the photographs I saw. I've never been.
Yeah, it's really great. I think you and the crew would have a great time. It'd just be a good way for you guys to have one of those shows where, you know, because this is the thing, too, and I wanted to express it to you. One of the things I really loved about the show is you want to be with you guys. That's the thing. I've been on these road trips before where we go out looking for UFOs because, you know, I do that because, heck, I'm on the radio and I talk about this stuff.
It's fun, right?
Yeah, it's a blast. And so you guys are like sitting in the car, you know, and you're singing and you know, the only thing we do is we go to like this place called Stevenson and we find this place where we get the most miserable cup of coffee we can that will keep us up like wired. And then we travel the rest of the way because we go out to a place called Mount Adams. It's the Gilliland Ranch. You guys should go out there because that's UFO activities heaven up there.
What's the guy's name that owns that ranch?
James Gilliland.
He's invited me. I want to go.
You need to go.
I really want to go. I want to do a night investigation at that ranch. I really do.
Because I'm going to go up there next month, and I'm going to visit because I didn't do it last year. But it's you know, for the view and for the experience.
He's been very, very kind to me, and I really need to make the time and go.
James a great guy too. He's an amazing man.
I know, and I mean, my gosh, apparently there's all sorts of paranormal activity or on and around his ranch. I mean,
when I went up there, I counted 9 UFOs unexplained.
I go there.
And the thing that's amazing about it is they actually track the sky, so you know whether or not it's a satellite or you know if it's some sort of iridium burn from some rocket. And so they tell you, well, that's not a UFO, that's that. But then all of a sudden you see this glowing orb. And then another one comes over, and they have like this ballet above the ranch. It's amazing.
My girlfriend's telling me she wants to go too.
That's great. That's great. Well, that'd be a good time for you. James Fox is my guest tonight on Ground Zero. I Know What I Saw, and the new National Geographic Chasing UFOs. It premieres tomorrow night. We are so glad to have him on the show tonight. If you have any questions or experiences, you heard what he said, you'd like to consider them for the television show, you can email him at his website or come on tonight and talk about it. 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL. Or 1-877-733-1011. We're looking for your best UFO stories and your experiences here with the man, James Fox. You got to call in tonight. He's an amazing guy. Been on Larry King, done all. In fact, even Steven Spielberg loves this guy. Wrote him a letter, said he loved his movie. Edgar Mitchell says the movie's great. It is a great movie. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
Business as usual in the apocalypse. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
James Fox is with us tonight on Ground Zero. The show is Chasing UFOs on National Geographic, and it's going to be airing tomorrow night. We're glad to have James on the program. James, I guess you must feel really elated or maybe in some cases vindicated at the fact that now all your hard work is being recognized and that you're moving UFOs out of the margins into the mainstream.
You know, it's a really exciting opportunity. I mean, a lot of the, UFO community, and myself included in this, are thinking like, oh, well, James kind of sold out a little bit. And I didn't. It's like I try to explain to people, it's like I've done many platforms. I've done, many 1-hour specials with CNN, Larry King Live. I've done 3 films for cable television. Now I'm part of a UFO series with National Geographic Channel, and that was going to broadcast with or without my participation. And I really think with it I'm having a much better influence, on the direction and credibility and witnesses and evidence that's being brought to the table. I mean, for example, I have all my previous works are circulating through the offices at the D.C. headquarters for National Geographic, and they're all getting back to me going, my God, right. I didn't realize there was so much to the phenomenon. So in my little ways, I'm so sorry, I've got this little hay fever, so I got a little thing in my throat. But So in little ways, I'm influencing the powers that be. I know that I'm making a difference in the show. They understand. National Geographic understands. Hey, this is a topic that people are fascinated with. I think they're starting to realize there's a lot more to it than swamp gas and weather balloons. And but we want to have a sense of adventure and travel and beauty shots. And light banter, and also good, solid cases, good evidence, and good witnesses.
And real skeptics, not jerks.
You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And Ben McGee is a really nice guy. I really like him.
I don't sit there and I don't get a bad taste in my mouth if he says he doesn't believe and say, it doesn't. That's the problem, is that when you get some skeptics on there, they're so tight. They're so. Yeah, it's like they can't get their hands dirty. And this guy gets right in, and he gets shocked, and he gets taken aback, and he's very genuine instead of being a critical. I mean, look, I have been known for saying this about skeptics. There are skeptics who have curiosity, and then there are skeptics that are real asses. Let's just put it blunt.
People would say, don't bother me with the evidence, my mind's made up.
Exactly, and they're not real skeptics. They have their mind made up, and they'll do anything to sabotage an investigation. They'll say something that they'll go to no end to say, oh, come on, that's fake, or like, what are you talking about? It's right in front of your face. Don't bust my chops here. We got a definite UFO in the sky, and you're going, I don't know. It could be It could be a weather balloon. Yeah, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it's shimmering.
Yeah, well, it's funny, actually. I went on Fox News a couple of days ago, yesterday, actually, with kind of seems like a couple of days ago. My gosh.
Okay.
You know a guy named Shepard?
Yeah, Shepard, yeah.
I'm on that show, and Shepard's looking at me like, cross-eyed, that sort of incredulous look on his face.
Yeah.
Why is it that there's never, there's never been one good photograph, and this is just kind of not. He's looking at me like the whole thing's a bunch of nonsense, and and of course I immediately mentioned the McMinnville because it's dating back to 1950. That's been scrutinized by the Condon Committee, and 3 daylight photographs, crystal clear, focus, points of reference, that sort of thing. People don't realize it's like there's a lot of evidence. It's not just anecdotal. There are multiple eyewitnesses. There's ground, to air radar and radar air to air and all this stuff.
Right.
People just don't know. You know what I mean? So with this guy, Fox News yesterday, he's sitting there looking at me, and I'm just thinking, you just don't know, buddy. You know what I mean?
Well, they don't experience it. Most of the time, the people that are sitting there in the newsrooms are too lazy to get off their butts and go out and see if they can find the UFO. And then when they do, they're forced to write this story. It's like they write it like a lifestyle column, and then at the end they have to go, the truth is out there, R. And it's almost as if, like, I thought of that myself. And you're just like, you're a dude. I don't know, I don't say it. But you just want to strangle them and say, you know what? Don't irritate me, because I can't stand people who are in the field that do that, or that are in news and they do that. They don't give it the respect it deserves, because, if they handle UFO cases, I guess the way you're handling them and the way they're handling them on National Geographic, I think people are going to take them seriously.
I hope so, and I hope this is a good opportunity. I hope the show does well. I hope that we find a fine balance between entertainment and information.
Right.
I think we're still fine-tuning it as the show progresses and develops. And I think, National Geographic is realizing that, they tune in and listen to like 99% of the radio interviews I've been doing. They got an ear in there, and they're listening to the whole thing, and they're uncovering a lot of things as well. And they're amazed that there's so much more to it.
Right.
And they're asking me now, like, hey, what other ideas can you think of promotional stuff? I'm going, hey, what about this National Press Club event I did in 2007? I own the rights. Let's flash some of those people at the National Press Club at the podium, these generals and colonels talking about the reality.
Oh yeah, this is going to be great for getting closer to disclosure.
Let's go to this case. It's like, and they're really receptive, and it's very nice and refreshing to have an organization of that stature, of that means to back you up. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it's awesome. Now, is it the ideal platform? Hey, no, it's not. It's not the way I'm used to doing things, but it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good start. James Fox is my guest tonight on Ground Zero, and we're glad to have him on. National Geographic, Chasing UFOs. It's a new special, actually a new documentary, new show that they're doing on National Geographic channel. I watched it today. I saw their report from Dublin, Texas. It was an amazing report. Has a good feel to it. And we're going to talk more about the show, more about UFOs. If you have any experiences you'd like to share with James, he's the man to do it. 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL. Or 1-877-733-1011. After all, the Northwest is the UFO capital of the world. We have McMinnville. We have Mount Adams, ESETI. We have Kenneth Arnold. I mean, my gosh, the list goes on and on and on and on. 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
I'd say, if it is just us, it seems like an awful waste of space.
Very strange. Okay, was it just like moving at a slow rate of speed? Fastly, but it was coming down.
Remember that space is stranger and more beautiful than we can begin to imagine. Out there, space is our future.
A strange plane or airplane or something in the air. It was coming down Hampton Drive. I don't know what it was. It was a flying saucer.
What did it look like, man?
It was like almost like an iridescent color. It was like a bluish purple.
Oh my God, I hope that's a plane. Please be a plane. Oh, please. I got them right here. I'm looking at them. What the hell is it? They're stationary. I got 3 of them.
Plunging a free-falling 596 points.
Concerned, but not alarmed, at the unusual amount of activity they experienced after yesterday's historic announcement.
Used that other strange monster, the press pack. And the question all these journalists are asking is, just who and what are these alien creatures?
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to Ground Zero. Tonight, Chasing UFOs, National Geographic, tomorrow night, premiere. And we have the man, James Fox, on the program. 503-417-9595, that's 9KXL. Or 1-877-733-1011. We're back with James, and so glad to have you on the program tonight. You know, and as I said earlier, this is UFO Central. I mean, we've had, the Maury Island affair that happened in the Puget Sound. We had Kenneth Arnold seeing those 9 UFOs over the Cascades. We had the Trents, and I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, we've got a ton of stuff, a ton of UFO stuff.
Those are very significant cases.
Yes, they were major before Roswell. Actually, the Trents happened after Roswell, but I mean, if you take a look at those cases on a one-on-one thing, we've been trying to discuss also the possibility that a lot of these flying saucer cases were because of maybe they were testing things over here or something. You never know. I mean, what do you think?
I stumbled upon some interview, obviously archive interview of the Trents. Paul, and what was his wife's name?
Oh, it just strikes my mind. It just slipped my mind.
Let's call them Mr. and Mrs. Trent.
Yeah, Paul Trent. I know Paul. I forgot his wife's name.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank myself. But in any case, I contacted a gentleman that interviewed them back in the 80s. And I obtained the full raw interview to use. Actually, I requested just a couple of snippets.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, I'll just send you the whole thing, and you can sift through it and take what you want and pay me accordingly. So I got to watch this raw interview of the Trents. And Paul, the husband, was rather, he was old and his health wasn't great. He sat in sort of one of those lounge chairs during the interview, and his voice was weak, but he talked about, the incident and everything else. And Mrs. Trent had mentioned being harassed by some sort of unknown government agency that came and pressured her and ransacked her house and just really, really bothered her. Did you hear about this?
I didn't hear anything about it. I do know, however, that the daughter that had gone on the news and said that apparently the negatives of the photo are being held by a newspaper agency, and they're not releasing them to the family, and it's because they're demanding they go into a museum, and so they're feeling like that they're being harassed and betrayed because they're not getting what they want, and that is they want access to the photos because it is a part of their family history as well as part of the history of that area.
And I understand those negatives disappeared for quite a long time when they did some early publicity back in the 50s.
Yeah, well, now they're back in McMinnville, and they're being held in a safety deposit box somewhere. So, by the way, his wife's name was Evelyn. I just remembered.
Oh, so, wonderful. Thank you.
So there you go, Paul and Evelyn Trent. But, Linda Saylor is their daughter, and she went on the news, I guess it was like a year or two ago, trying to get access to those photos and couldn't get them, or at least to the negatives. So that's one case that still has not been proven to be a hoax. There are a number of people who have gone to great lengths to make it look like it, but it isn't. It isn't a hoax at all. In fact, the more I investigate that case, the more I realize they were just a couple who snapped some pictures of something that was out there hovering above their farm.
Yeah, no, I mean, those were analyzed in the Condon report. And if you read the end analysis, you'll see that, they said this appears to be an unknown object, silvery, metallic, roughly 30 feet in diameter, and evidently flew in front of two witnesses. It's just amazing to me that you have evidence of that nature. Then you got the Rex Heflin stuff in '65, and you got, just a whole slew of wonderful photographs, and mainstream just constantly goes back to why is it we don't have any photographs? It's kind of frustrating.
Yeah, and they are the best photographs out there. But see, that's another thing too, though, is that I was talking with my videographer the other day. We were talking about USOs because of the situation in the Baltic Sea, and he was telling me that the reason why a lot of them are blurry is because that would prove them to be real because they're traveling fast, and sometimes a camera cannot snap it that quickly.
Well, that's interesting. I just went to Southern California, and I met with a woman, Anne Druffel. She wrote a book called Firestorm. It's about Dr. I think of his name, McDonald. He ended up taking, evidently, either it was suicide or someone took his life, bullet in the head. He was working with the government to kind of uncover the truth behind UFOs. Fascinating case. But anyway, she was left with the original Polaroids that Rex Heflin took back in 1965. I think there's three of them, three of the saucer and then one of it shooting off, or two of the saucer and one of it shooting. It's either three or four, but they're Polaroids, and she has the original Polaroids. So I just went down and spent some time with her, and she had a guy analyze them. And I met with the scientist who's doing the analysis work, very thorough, by the way. And he said the objects, he can't get them totally in focus. He said he doesn't know if it's something to do with the propulsion or the way they're flying or whatever it is, but he said it's just this crazy, anomalous kind of thing happening in the Polaroids. And as far as he's concerned, that even gives it more authenticity.
So I see it that way too. I mean, if something looks too clear anymore, I mean, I was talking about this with Bill Burns the other day. He was on the show, and we were talking about the CGI now and all that other stuff. You get on YouTube anymore, and you're running the risk of being hoaxed because everybody has access to some way of doing this. And that is why, another reason why I think this Chasing UFO show is so vital to UFO investigating, because we're looking at the raw stuff you guys are collecting. And, in fact, my producer, Jordan, was in today, and we were watching that last clip towards the end, and in the way it flashed, it looked like a flying disc, and we're like going, you've got to be kidding me. I mean,
we were pretty shocked to get that in the field. I remember I was a couple hundred yards away when Ryder captured that, and I heard her screaming on the walkie-talkie, "Get over here now!" And I ran across the field, and Ben and her were just baffled by what they'd captured. We couldn't get it back to the lab fast enough.
Right.
One of the few cases that Ben was truly scratching his head going, I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, I saw the look on Ben's face, and of course Ryder was just like, she was just giving her raw feelings about what she saw. And yeah, I mean, it's an amazing thing that while you're out there, you find these things, and you get some very interesting things. What do you make of that UFO that was, I can't remember the name of the guy that shot it, but it was that one that looked like it was a black,
hat.
What's that?
A top hat upside down.
Yeah, the upside-down top hat. What do you make of that? Was that a remote-controlled model, or was that something...
Ruiz, I think it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, because when I first saw the footage, and we got it through Open Minds, I thought, God, that looks kind of fake, and I talked to a few people at Open Minds. I said, well, in initial appearance it does, but when you meet the witness, he's a police officer, he's very credible and authentic and all the rest of it, and he's not out there trying to, get attention from this whole thing. And you might, you have to kind of go and check it out. So we did, and we met him, and I was absolutely convinced that he didn't hoax it. I think the object was there. I think that he truly ran in, grabbed his video camera, and captured it. But I can't say this definitively, but my assessment of it was that it looks like perhaps someone played a prank on him in the neighborhood and flew a remote control saucer in there, but it didn't make any sound at all. So that's a little puzzling. But, like I said, I can't say definitively. Now, had it performed some sort of maneuver that could have quickly eliminated that possibility, like just zoomed off at a high rate of speed or gotten closer so you can get an idea of its size, I would say no. But it doesn't do that. So jury's still out.
Where in the United States would you say is the hot spot for UFOs? You're guaranteed seeing something weird, because I know that I've lived in places, or I've been near places where I've seen enough of them. Like I used to live out near the West Deserts of Utah, and man, that place just thrives. And then, of course, I've seen a lot of UFOs out there at Mount Adams. That place thrives. Where's a hot spot?
San Luis Valley. I heard that's a real hot spot.
Lewis Valley?
Yeah, San Luis Valley in Colorado.
Oh yeah, in Colorado, yeah. That's where they've had that's where they've had those cattle mutilations out that area, out that neck of the woods, right?
Yeah, we actually went in. We did a Colorado episode where we met with some ranchers, and these guys are like no nonsense kind of people. And they're not saying, they're not screaming from the hilltops, "Hey, ET is here," and they're abducting our cows, but they're going, "Look, why is there no sign?" And I have to be honest with you, I hadn't really looked into the whole cattle mutilation aspect.
Right.
But until now. And we met with these ranchers, and they're going, "Look, there's no indication whatsoever of a struggle, which there would be with predation, animals. There's not one drop of blood on the ground, and you could literally get a blue light at night and go over this thing, and there's not a drop of blood, no sign of struggle, and there's organs extracted from the cows." So they're going, "Look, it looks as though somebody grabbed this thing, took it somewhere, performed whatever it performed on it, extracted what it needed, and then dropped it from the sky back on the ground, and that's what it looks like. Who could be behind it? You tell me. No footprints, no tire tracks, no blood splatter. That's really quite strange, don't you think?"
Yeah, it is strange, and that's one of the things. The jury's still out on that stuff, believe me, about cattle mutilations, and because I tend to, like to separate my ufology from my crop circles from my cattle mutes, but sometimes they all run into each other and they all overlap for some strange reason.
Oh, they know. They definitely do. I get people that assume that I know all about Bigfoot and all about crop circles and all about cattle mutilation. That I don't really know. Right?
Yeah, you got to separate the substances and hopefully come up with some solution. James Fox is my guest tonight on Ground Zero. The show is Chasing UFOs. It's on National Geographic. It'll be on tomorrow night. You got to check it out. It's an amazing show. In the meantime, we're taking your phone calls at 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. Got a lot of phones to get to, so we're going to get to them soon, and we'll be right back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
503-417-9595 is the number to call, or 1-877-733-1011. Tonight, James Fox is with us, and, of course, National Geographic's new show called Chasing UFOs, and we're glad to have him on the program because it just is a feel-good show. And you're right, it does bring out some of the beauty shots, a lot of things that it just makes you feel like you want to be there right in the driver's seat with you guys.
You know, we had a very seasoned cinema photographer with us. Excuse me, I've had trouble saying that word, cinema photographer.
Okay.
Cinema photographer.
Right.
And he requested this very high-end telephoto lens, but it's extremely expensive, and it's rarely approved, but he got it approved, and, it's like the cost of a house. And this thing, has its sort of own tripod. I mean, it's colossal.
Mm-hmm.
And we could take shots that you just couldn't believe. Like, we were shooting the moon. We were shooting, a lot of times you zoom in and you're lucky to get the whole moon in the TV set, right? Like,
right.
Screen.
Mm-hmm.
We were zooming in on little craters and filling the TV set, right? So you can imagine, like, the telephoto capabilities of this thing, the zoom capabilities. It was phenomenal. It wasn't digital. It's optical. And, we're shooting interviews from, quarter mile away, and, so you get in the heat up the roads, and just, we were seeing UFOs at night, or just, unidentified flying objects, whatever they were, and we were capturing those from this telephoto lens. It was amazing. It took production to a whole another level.
Yeah, there's something about this show that's different. I know that because when I was getting ready to watch it, I thought, wow, it's maybe going to be just another one of those types of shows where it's just, UFO. But no, you really want to be a part of it, and you really are brought into it because you got real people, and you got and the people there are credible witnesses. They're good people. And it just reminds me of the type of stuff I like doing. I like going out to those little offbeat areas where the people are just tremendous. They'll tell you the truth. They'll look you in the eye, and they'll talk to you. And I always say, the best place to get the story is some greasy spoon in some town that no one knows where it's at, and you get all the information you want in one day just talking to the waitress.
It was amazing. We did that in Colorado. It was phenomenal. In Salida, Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
The case that happened in I think it was 96, the Tim Edwards.
Yeah.
Salida, Colorado footage. Was that 96?
I don't know.
Sorry, I've been up too long.
Well, dates and times, but it's true. I mean, you go to these places that are just off the beaten path, and like I say, you go into one of those greasy spoons, and you find like the truck driver that's passing through town, or you find the waitress that needs to speak to somebody, and they will tell you anything and everything, and they'll also give you the names of the people that will give you the information that knows firsthand, and that's the cool thing. James, we're going to take a break right now, but we're going to be back. A lot of people wanting to talk to you, so we're going to get to the phone calls. And James Fox with us tonight on Ground Zero. Glad to have him on. The show, once again, for those of you that want to know, it's called Chasing UFOs. It's going to be on National Geographic tomorrow. A fantastic show. You got to check it out. And trust me, when you watch it, you're going to feel like, boy, I want to go on one of these UFO hunts. And, in fact, it's got me itching to go up to the mountain, guys. I think I'm going to make the trip. I'm going to make a plan, and whoever wants to come with me, you're more than welcome to hop in your cars and travel with me up there to Mount Adams, because I really want to see me some UFOs this year, and I really want to do it and relax with you. I'll bring a bunch of listeners with me. It'll be a great time. 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. All calls. You'll be the star and the media as we get back after the news right here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KX.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up. Give up.
Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Today on the program, we have James Fox with us. Those of you who don't know who James Fox is the man who organized the National Press Club briefing in Washington, where he assembled the most notable and credible UFO witnesses from around the world to testify there. Air Force generals, astronauts, military and commercial pilots, government FAA officials from 7 countries were there to talk about UFO sightings. He even got Governor Fife Symington from Arizona to talk about the Phoenix Lights. Of course, he has made appearances all over Larry King Live, Anderson Cooper's 360, ABC Nightline. His film, I Know What I Saw, great film. That's just one of them. He's also got one called UFOs, 50 Years of Denial. And many people have praised his work, including Steven Spielberg. And we're glad to have him on the program tonight because, of course, he is now a part of a great new show. It's going to be on National Geographic called Chasing UFOs. And we're very glad to have with us tonight James Fox on Ground Zero. James, we got a lot of people wanting to talk to you, so we're going to go to the phones.
I want to meet this guy.
Who, you? He's just a UFO producer. He's just some UFO producer. Yeah, you know, one of those guys. I once said you look like Hank Azaria's brother.
I've gotten that. It's so funny.
You do. I said, I go, God, you look like Hank Azaria's brother. I was saying that on the show before. We go, who's James Fox? I go, well, you'll see him. You'll know him. I mean, he's done all kinds of great work. And
it's really funny. You know, my father, unfortunately, just passed about a month and a half ago. And I remember when I was in the production, he had multiple sclerosis. He'd been battling for a while, and he got everything he needed to get done and decided it was his time. So, in any case, I remember when I was finishing I Know What I Saw, and I really felt like I felt like I did a good job, and it was a good film, but it fell short of my expectations. And so I was like kind of feeling a little down and a little disappointed in myself. And my dad says, "Son," he says, "What are you doing? What's wrong with you?" And I said, "Dad, I tried to get in movie theaters around the world and this, that, and the other thing." He says, "Yes, but look at what you did." I kept forgetting, like, all right, hey, man, you know what? That is a pretty cool accomplishment, right? I mean,
well, sometimes we don't know, what we do. When we're on, like with me, I do radio shows and I do all kinds of stuff, and sometimes I don't realize the impact until somebody comes up to me. Like today, for example, I was having breakfast at a place called Fat City in Multnomah Village, and it's a great place to have chops and eggs if you're ever in Portland. And the guy, the cook, is wearing a Ground Zero T-shirt. He bought it off the internet, Ground Zero T-shirt, and then he was afraid to ask for an autograph, so I signed the tab. And then one of the other guys, Ian, comes down and sits with me, and he's asking me all these questions, and I'm thinking, I don't care, I don't mind. If they want to ask questions, I'll sit and talk with them, no problem. But it's kind of nice every once in a while to get that kind of a vote of confidence from people, and I really appreciate that. And I think
I couldn't agree more. I mean, just your kind words of support tonight meant a lot to me. It's like people think just because you're doing this stuff that you're getting recognition, and a lot of times, it's really nice to hear the fact that people appreciate what you're doing, because I'm sure as you do, I bust my beep, trying to get this stuff done.
Well, it's like Bryce Zabel said to me. He says, we're all the drunk uncles at the party. Everybody goes, he's just talking. He's just talking, And no, we're working hard to try and get this information out. And what really stinks is when we get burned. If we go on an investigation, we find out, we're being hoaxed or we're being whatever. But no, we have to go out, we stick our necks out. And that's why I have nothing but kind words for you, because you got great work. And if people haven't seen your work, they can watch it on the internet, or they can buy your movies, damn it. They can go out and...
If anyone wants to do that, I got a great special on my website. 4 DVDs. I got the Raw National Press Club. I got 50 Years of Denial. I got the new version of Out of the Blue. And I got I Know What I Saw, all for $39, which includes tax and shipping.
So where do we go to get that?
I Know What I Saw, the movie. All
right, fantastic. We're now going to go to Ron calling in. Ron from Oregon. Hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. You're on the air.
I called in because I have what I took originally on a Sony handheld video of what I saw in the sky for roughly about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was something that for some reason my handheld video, when I put it out of focus and then go back onto the object that was stationary, you can actually see 5 different octagon shapes on this object. And it actually, at one of the videos, the object has a line that rattles or like ripples through it. I have about maybe 30 different shots of this on different times. I tried to do it with a computer camera. I could not get it with a computer camera. So I put the video on a CD format. And I have a couple other ones. And it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Hey, is there any chance you might be able to contact me through my website and send me a link or something?
You know what? I'm not a computer guy. I'd love to send you the video. I mean, the CD. I'm going to get them all done. I mean, this is the most craziest thing you ever see.
Yeah, I'd love to take a look at it. You can reach me through my website.
Okay.
If you just Google I know what I saw, it'll be the first thing that pops up, and you can email me directly from the website. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and all you need to do is find yourself a computer geek, Ron, and they'll be more than happy to transfer that stuff onto either an MP4 format or something that you can email to James.
So I need to meet a computer geek. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, find some computer geek. Go on Craigslist and say, need a computer geek to transfer UFO footage for a major television show. I'm sure that they would jump at the opportunity.
You know, and I've looked on YouTube and all that stuff for something even close to this, and there's nothing on any internet thing that I've ever seen like this.
Okay.
It'll be the most fascinating thing you'll ever see, I'm sure.
All right, Ron, you get on that. You get on that, and James will be looking for that, okay?
Hey, thanks so much, Ron.
What was the site again?
I know what I saw.
I know what I saw. Okay, I'm driving down the road.
All right, take care. Just remember, I know what I saw, okay? Thanks for the call. Thank you so much. I know what I saw. Go to Loretta. He sounded so excited. Loretta, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Oh, yeah, here I come.
Oh, you're on speaker?
Yeah.
Okay, you got to get off speaker so I can hear your beautiful voice. Let's see what's going on, Loretta.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
They thought someone, just a minute. Clay, Annie, stop. I'm sorry. When I says, I'm coming, and they thought, well, I can start talking about Roswell first, because we were listening to the radio when Roswell happened.
Uh-huh.
They had ham operators talking about how apparently the debris was spread for miles, they said. This is on the radio. And then the ham operators were saying about the strange writing and the metal you could crunch up and it'd flatten out.
I have one question that I have got to ask you right now to clarify. Did you hear the radio interview with Mac Brazel, rancher Mac Brazel?
No, I haven't.
Okay, sorry. Okay, carry on.
Okay, and then in 1968, I went to Mexico. No, let's start back a little farther. In 1967, I went to Denver, Colorado to work, and I finished my job and was driving back from Denver, and I drove until I was so sleepy and was down in a wash. Well, I pulled over at a truck stop, and I climbed in the back seat of my car. And I was laying there, and I heard this diesel engine come up. It was a truck driver. He went to the bathroom and got back in. But then after that, I kept hearing this diesel noise again, and I'm listening, and no truck. And I realized it was coming from directly over my head. And I realized that there was pressure on my head getting worse and worse and worse. And I covered my head up because it scared me so bad. And I could see this kind of a greenish light that hit my feet, and all I can remember is shaking like a flopping, and then it was like I was afraid to open my eyes because I could feel a big space around me, and I don't remember in this that I ever opened my eyes at all because I was so terrified. When you're so afraid you can't scream or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were talking to me through thought. And I don't even want to remember what happened, but then I would drive in the daytime and I would only sleep in the parks because I was so afraid. And then after that, I could still feel those shadows. I was afraid to have the shower curtain closed because I could feel the shadows like they were still watching me. And then about 1 year later, all of a sudden, I was next to my husband in bed, and all of a sudden I started flopping like a fish again, and tears and snot was coming out my nose, and I remembered what happened. It was real. Then I went to Mexico. We're going into 1968 now.
This is sounding like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
It is. It's sounding really harsh. But go ahead, Loretta.
Okay, and then I went to Mexico City. It was 1968. It was before Christmas. And I had a kid in the car with me. He was a 19-year-old kid because he spoke Spanish. And we were driving down Reforma, and I saw this light. It was up against one of their high-rise. Of course, their high-rises down there aren't as tall as ours because of the earthquakes. And it was on a slight slant, and it was you could see the round, a little silver kind of a bowl underneath, and it was like an octagon shape on top, but it was a neon light. You couldn't see anything. And the kid said to me, "Do you see what I see?" And I said, "Yeah," but because I've had such a strange mind anyway, that I wasn't going to say anything. So we looked around, and everybody was standing there looking at it, and it just did kind of a little quiver, and it just was gone.
Loretta? Loretta,
yes.
How old are you?
I'm 73.
So you're 73 years old, and you've had these experiences. You still having them now?
The latest thing that happened to me is 2 summers ago. Now, I don't understand what it was, but I had the crack of my window open, and I was early in the morning, just at dusk, and I opened my eyes for some reason, and there was this long black, like, about a half-inch round, long black cord, whatever, with a red light, and I thought it was a snake in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that I was awake, and I closed my eyes and said, "Go to sleep, go to sleep." And then the next night, it was there again, but it was only halfway between the window and me.
That sounds like it was some sort of a probe that was going down to look at you. And
like Loretta, who've had these experiences and never reported them or never get any airtime.
Right, and this is amazing, Loretta. I've never heard anything like this, and you being your age and you've had all these experiences. I get the feeling that maybe that you're some sort of a contactee, and you're getting all these experiences like this.
Yeah, it's not fun, really.
I bet it's not.
Can I ask you one really quick question? When you heard the radio transmissions about the Roswell crash, did they say, "Hey, we got a flying saucer," or what were they saying?
I was pretty young, and everybody was so excited about it. They said that a flying saucer had crashed, and yes, they had seen one body, apparently, that was still alive.
And they said this on the radio. You heard this yourself.
On ham radio.
Yes, I did. They had several ham operators. And then it was a day or two later, they said it was a weather balloon, and from that time on, I knew that our government was lying to us.
Fantastic story, Loretta. That's priceless. Thank you for calling this program tonight.
Loretta, I really appreciate you calling in tonight.
You're very welcome.
Wow.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Ham radio operators. This is amazing that they were talking about. They said one body was still alive. James, that's some very choice stuff right there.
Yeah. Well, when we come back on, I can tell you something really quickly.
Okay. We'll come back from the break. You tell me something really quickly. Yep. Right now, James Fox with us on Ground Zero from National Geographic, Chasing UFOs. If you have an experience like Loretta's, or even one that's I don't know, that was pretty good. 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
Everyone is in on the secrets, and big things are being planned. Call Clyde Lewis now. Ground Zero.
The show is called Chasing UFOs, and with us tonight is James Fox, one of the crew members of that show. We're glad to have him on the program. You were going to tell us something about Loretta's call, follow up on it. What were you going to say?
Very quickly, just to kind of follow up on that, there's so many of those stories out there. I was approached when I did a film called Out of the Blue, which was narrated by Peter Coyote. I finished it in 2003, and I did a new version for it in 2006. But during the production of it, my online editor, Boris, the building that he lived in was owned by this woman who lived on the bottom floor. She was in her 80s. And, I would say probably in 2003, she was adamant when she found out we were doing a UFO documentary. She wanted to talk to me. And actually my friend Boris said, look, my landlady actually is adamant. She really wants to meet with you. And I said, what about? And she said, when she found out you were doing a UFO film, she wanted to have tea. So I went and had tea with her. No cameras rolling. It was just a meeting between her and myself. And she said, look, I want you to know something that I've never talked about. My husband was a very prominent scientist in the 40s and 50s. He told me in 1952 that a UFO had crashed in New Mexico and that alien bodies were recovered from that crash and that he had personally seen them. And I didn't know. She said, I'd never heard about any such a thing. I didn't hear anybody talking about it or speculating about it. I never really know what to do with that information. She said, my husband has since passed. But she said, if my husband said that's what happened, by golly, that's what happened. And she said, I just want you to know that. So there's so many of these stories. Of course, one would call that anecdotal evidence. But when you hear enough of those stories, when no one's out here trying to sell me anything, they don't want the publicity, they don't want their name used, but they just want me to know that. It was like those police officers pulling me aside in Stephenville to tell you, hey, look, man, you're on the right path.
Well, Donald Schmidt was telling me something when he was in McMinnville. He said it's the race with the Reaper. I mean, we got a lot of people out there with these stories, and we got to get them before they pass away. And he says that now it's a job of getting those people who want to tell their stories, any kind of anecdotal evidence that they can release.
It's still good, It's what we call the preponderance of evidence. And I'll give a prime example of that, which I'm just devastated about. But I tried to get Apollo 11 astronaut Buzz Aldrin's sister, May Ann Potter, who lived just a few miles away from me. And we've been friends for 12 years. And she told me stories that Buzz had shared with her about 2 UFO sightings. And I never got her on camera, and I always intended to get her on camera, and she died a couple months ago.
Oh, that's so tragic.
I'm devastated. I can barely talk about it.
Yeah, that's hard when you want to get that great story, and then the person who has that information passes away. That's why it's so important to keep this type of conversation going. In fact, I'm going to ask you a question when we get back from the break about the new guard and what we can do to change all that. Right here, James Fox, glad to have him on the program tonight, talking about his show, the new show, National Geographic, called Chasing UFOs. One of the remarkable directors, filmmakers. He's there. He's on the air with us tonight. If you have a question, 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
We know now that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligences greater than man, yet as mortal as his own. We know now that as human beings busied themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over this small, spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to our minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellect vast, cool, and unsympathetic, regarded this earth with envious eyes and slowly and surely drew their plans against it.
you all had any reports of unknown flying objects over there?
No, we haven't.
Oh, okay, I was wondering. We supposedly are having quite an invasion over here.
What area? In our area?
No, it's over around Dickinville and Edwards there. And I was wondering if any of your sightings or any of your bunches over there have called anything in.
No.
Okay, fine. Thanks so much.
There's still no confirmation what that object was, but as we first reported at the top of the newscast, Vandenberg Air Force Base told us the mystery object was not a satellite falling to Earth or any kind of space junk.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Tonight, chasing UFOs, James Fox is my guest. The numbers to call, 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL, or 1-877-733-1011. A lot of experiences and a lot of people talking tonight. We talk with James. UFOs, unidentified flying objects. James, I was talking, we were talking about, racing to get those stories and everything else. I tend to think that we need to have more cutting-edge shows like what you're producing, or at least shows like what's going on, because it seems as though, as we're moving forward, the stories still need to be told, and there need to be people with cutting-edge attitudes telling the stories. And I hope that it's not too late to continue telling these stories in such a way, because I know that, people, they tend to, I know the mainstream media sometimes downplays all this, but it just seems to me that there's a ripe and more interesting way of going about this sometimes, and I think a lot of people ignore it, and I don't know what your suggestions are to keep this going.
Well, here's, and that is one of the wonderful opportunities that this show presents, is that it really increases the platform viewership, my profile, that sort of thing, and it's also given me additional access. And one of the things I really want to do is I feel like I fell short with I Know What I Saw, is I want to create a feature-length documentary film on the subject, the definitive piece that comes out in theaters around the world. And that was ultimately my goal with I Know What I Saw, but I didn't quite have the funding, didn't quite have the connections, but I think I do now. So I'm actually, in conjunction with this whole new series with National Geographic, I'm also pitching behind the scenes a similar project to what I did with I Know What I Saw, but next level.
Mm-hmm. One that would be the definitive work that you can say, I put this in a film. I mean, I'd
like to see a worldwide theatrical release UFO film, the real life Close Encounters.
But didn't Spielberg really love your film?
Yeah, he did. He did. I got a letter on my wall from him.
Yeah. So I mean, you'd probably get. Would he be interested in maybe helping you? You think?
It's funny you should mention that, actually, because I'm talking to the guy who did Fire in the Sky, Intruders, Contact, Tracy Torme right now.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy Torme saw I Know What I Saw and reached out to me. And, he said, God, this is kind of the film I always wanted to do. And I said, well, look, I'm actually thinking about this other film that I want to pitch. I want to take the best evidence from the best witnesses from around the world, and primarily, whenever possible, official evidence. Stuff from maybe the Brazilian Air Force, or stuff from
the
Air Force, or Chilean X-Force, or French, or England, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, just get everyone from around the world to say this. It probably would be a way to even create an air of disclosure if just normal people were to tell the stories. And that's what I think more and more people need to tell their stories. In fact, let's go to Brett. He wants to tell you a story. Hi, Brett. You're on Ground Zero with James Fox. Go ahead.
Hi, Clyde. How are you?
Good.
Mr. Fox, first of all, I want to say I'm very sorry to hear about your father.
Oh, thank you.
That's got to be something that I don't look forward to in my own life. But I was wondering about your production situation as far as your crew and your cameras. Do you shoot with night vision?
It's amazing. And Erin Ryder is the co-executive producer. She's in charge of tech and recon, and she's also a cast member. There's also Ben McGee, but the amount of you guys would not believe the amount of equipment that we travel with, and the amount of overages every time we take a plane is insane. I mean, there are so many pieces of equipment, so many different types of cameras. We've got the small cameras, the big cameras, the infrared cameras, the night vision cameras. I've never seen anything like it. You know, I've never been involved with a production at this level. I mean, I'm used to just grabbing my little camera bag, my wireless microphone, and my laptop, and I'm out the door. This is not that production. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is like, you know, we're talking, we need a U-Haul truck everywhere we go.
Good to know. Good to know. I'm up here at the base of the Cascade Mountains.
Yes, sir.
I Clyde about a week and a half ago and told him a story about how I had seen an object. I don't know what it was. It was just a big bright ball of light, maybe 150 yards away, about 200 feet off of the ground. And it scared me. I went inside my trailer. I grabbed a shotgun. I wanted to shoot it, but I didn't. And as soon as I got off the phone with Clyde, within 40 minutes, I had another one fly by. And this one didn't get that close, though. This one was maybe a quarter mile away.
Did you have to squint the first time you saw it?
What's that?
Did you have to squint the first time you saw it? Was it real bright?
No, I've seen them before. I used to live in the desert, somewhat close to Edwards Air Force Base in Southern California.
Yep, know exactly where that is.
So I've seen them before, but this one, I've never seen one this close. And the second one was about the same distance as I saw the very first time way back in Southern California, maybe five or 6 years ago.
Mm.
But on a clear night, I'm up on a mountain. I'm secluded. There's kind of a lot of trees around, but it seems like every clear night, I can guarantee that there is something odd that flies by here.
Now, does it hover?
No, I've never seen it stop. I've never seen it hover. When I was in Southern California, I've seen a ball of light, or a ball, drop through the atmosphere. I've seen the contrails coming off the bottom. I thought we were all dead. But once it got through the atmosphere, it looked like it stopped. Then it hovered. It shot straight back up through the atmosphere, and then it took off, I think it was southeast from where I was.
It was just gone.
Yeah, it was gone. But when I'm up here, and it's so much clearer up here, there's no smog up here. It's, good clean air, except for the clouds. If we can get rid of all these clouds, it would probably be unbelievable. Because every clear night that I'm up here, or that I'm here, I sit outside and I just look up at the sky.
Well, what you need to do is you need to get a camera and you need to start shooting these pictures and get some
exactly what I was going to say.
Get some video, because guns don't count. You got to get it on video. You got to get something recorded about it.
No one would ever believe me the one that was close to me, if I had a video camera, then it probably would have shocked the world.
Okay,
well,
here. Now, if you do grab a video camera, it sounds like you're in the position to do so, or borrow a camera for a couple of weeks. Make sure that you put it either on a tripod or put it on a stationary object and put it on infinity. Therefore, you can make sure it's in focus, and you can differentiate the movement from the object to the movement of the camera. Very important.
I'm not a people person. I try to stay away from people as much as possible.
Well,
Okay.
then
I don't.
then you have to go get the camera on your own. Then you got to find a camera or find some way to record it. Your cell phone too. If you have a cell phone, you can get on your cell phone.
Well, yeah, but then you're going to get the debunking.
Well, of course you are.
You want to see it.
I mean, of course you're going to get the debunking, but I mean, so what? I get debunked all the time, and I'm sure people go to James and say that he's, they try to debunk James all the time.
I had a guy tell me I needed brain surgery. I was delusional. I had little dangly bits on my brain that needed fusing. And, some other stuff about how I needed brain surgery.
Oh, man.
It's really funny. So I said, I very kindly responded, hey, I really appreciate your input there.
Thank you, Mr. Psychiatrist.
Why don't you take a look? Oh, and he ended it by saying, I hope this helps. So I said, thank you so much for your input. By the way, you should check this out. And I gave him, some of the best evidence. It's a 5-minute clip. And then I said, P.S., I hope this helps.
So
never heard back from him.
So, Brett, do your best to document this, because if it's happening, you got to document it. That's all there is to it. I mean,
couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, it's just something that if it were me, I'd make sure that I document the darn thing.
Well, I have a cell phone, but I don't know if you've ever taken a cell phone out at night and put it on video.
I have.
And tried to shoot anything.
I have, and it's difficult in the dark sometimes, but you got to make an effort. That's all I have to say. You got to make an effort.
Yep, I totally agree.
Brad, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much.
Hey, bye-bye, Brad.
Yeah, we're going to take a break right now. James Fox is my guest here on Ground Zero. We're going to keep taking your calls at 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
KXL After Dark. If you question it, you're doing it right. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
James Fox is with us right here on Ground Zero. Chasing UFOs is the show. It's going to be premiering tomorrow. And we got a lot of people wanting to talk to James. So let's quickly go to Richard. Richard, you're calling from what? Oh, you're not calling
Portland.
from You're calling from Portland. It says here Zimbabwe, but we'll see. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay. Well, yeah. No. The question, or I wanted to bring to the attention of. First of all, I want to tell him congratulations. He did a great job on the movie. I know what I saw.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah, I loved it, and I appreciate all you're doing. I wanted to know if you were aware of, John Mack's work in Zimbabwe with the Ruwa children.
Oh, yes, I do. It's an absolute phenomenal case. It was, I think, 88 school children in 1996, Ruwa, Zimbabwe, witnessed a landed flying saucer and I think 1 or possibly 2 beings.
Yeah, I looked into that case. There's some other footage interviewing those children, and at one point, it's not just one child, but many of these children say that this craft landed. Now, it landed, and the teacher also said that the children said this, with 4 or 5 things surrounding it. It wasn't just the main craft. It had 4 or 5, and the children had drawn pictures of these things, and they look like trees, and that's what the school marm said. She said that the kids said they look kind of like trees. So this main craft was flanked by these things, and when I heard that, something clicked. I have a photographic memory, and I went back and looked at some real early crop circle pictures, the real simple ones, not the elaborate ones now. And I noticed that a lot of these real simple crop circle pictures had the main crop circle and 4 or 5 smaller circles surrounding them.
Really?
Yeah, I think that that's something that a lot of people have missed, and I think that is our connection to the crop circles. Maybe if you listen to those children's interviews again, and they really mention it on the Unexplained Mysteries episode. I think that's still on YouTube. But you can hear the kids and they're all talking about these 4 or 5 things that landed with the main craft. The kids have drawn them in the pictures, and then go back and look at your early simple crop circles.
Well, I will certainly do that. Thank you so much for the call.
And I'd like to thank Clyde, too, for letting me have my say. I know that time is short. You got other people on. And I just want to say thanks to Loretta. If we would have saw Loretta on the street, we wouldn't have known she had that secret.
Isn't that the truth? I really appreciate those moments, and it's amazing for someone like Clyde to provide a platform for people to share this information. It's critical.
Yeah.
Richard.
Yeah, poor Loretta. She's saying she was sleeping in the park and afraid to take a shower because of the shadow things. And I think there's a connection with that, too. And Nick Redfern from UFO Magazine's been making that commercial or connection. I'm going to let you go. Thanks a lot, Clyde.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. You bet. Hey, James, I just heard that you got another interview you got to go to. And I just wanted to, before we get told that we have to go to the news, I wanted to thank you for being on the program tonight. And I wanted to thank you for all your great work. I do want you to come to Portland. I do want you to go to ECETI. I do want you to go to McMinnville, and I want to hook up with you when you come here.
I 110% want to do that, and I feel like we got cut short a little tonight. We have a lot more to discuss.
Yeah.
And if you want to invite me back on, maybe after the episode airs a few times,
yeah,
please do it. I would love to join your show again in the near future.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you about, too, because I know that there were so many opinions and so many things I could get to tonight. Just a quick opinion from you. What do you think of the Baltic Sea anomaly?
I think it's a rock formation.
You do?
I do, because I was reading this geologist report on it, and I talked to a guy who was kind of had the inside scoop, and he said there were other formations around it, but smaller.
Uh-huh.
And so, hey, man, I would love nothing more for it to be a crashed, saucer. You have no idea, how much that would excite me. But do you think our governments would know about it before then and would have retrieved it secretly if it was?
Maybe, or they may shut it down.
When it first, remember the story first broke like a year ago?
Yeah, they kept it pretty quiet then, too. I'm talking actually with, I'm going to be talking with Peter Lindbergh tomorrow.
Okay, well then you tell me, because I read a whole report on it, and I also spoke to somebody that had a sort of inside scoop, and they were all excited, but then they found similar, I think, rock formations or something, or it had something growing on this. Oh, no, it wasn't something growing on the skin. There's something.
It said there was a pearl necklace of rocks surrounding it, sort of, in the dome area and stuff, but I'm getting the feeling that, they're being told not to talk much about it. In fact, I just had a situation with Max de Lafayette on my program, and he had cut my interview short because he didn't want to go into it. He didn't want to go into what was going on, what was being said.
I want to know, man. If you have any information on that, send it to me. I'd love nothing more than to investigate that if there's something to it.
Okay, I'll see what I can do. You may want to investigate something called Operation or Exercise Mind Brace.
Okay.
Or Main Brace, rather. It's Operation Main Brace. It happened in the 1950s. If you look at Operation Main Brace and find out what happened over the Baltic Sea, I think you may find some information that's interesting.
Fantastic. Gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
1952. Okay, 1952. Operation Main Brace, NATO maneuvers in 1952, and you'll find that the Baltic Sea was a hotbed for that stuff back then.
Wow, okay, I'll do that.
All right?
Thank you so much for having me on, and I really look forward to you inviting me on again soon.
I'd love it. Thank you so much for being on the program.
Good night.
Take care. Bye-bye. Good night. Chasing UFOs is the show. Be sure to tune in. It's a great show with James Fox. We'll be back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KX.
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, the loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. Tonight we had James Fox on the program. Chasing UFOs is the show. I really recommend you tune in to watch it. Fantastic program, and I had a chance to preview it today. And having James on the show was an honor. And that's the thing. Here in Oregon, we have all kinds of great stories. We have all kinds of experiences that happen. And, that's the thing. Is this is the place where, I came here because I had heard about all of the great experiences here. And I've had some experiences of my own. As I've said before, going out to the East City Ranch there at Mount Adams has always been a remarkable experience. And as I said to James, they look like they're having that road trip fun and doing all that kind of stuff, going out on these road trips and doing the investigations. And see, I don't know. I would say this. I would put the challenge out to anyone out there that if we were to do investigations of any kind, I would open up to the audience, anyone to show up. But the problem is I think a lot of people are scared. And I think a lot of people don't want to see a UFO, nor do they want to see a ghost, nor do they want to experience anything paranormal, because I think that it's great to hear about it, and I think it's great to say, well, it's never happened to me. But then when you offer them the opportunity to go somewhere where it's happening, there should be people in droves wanting to. People want to have the experience. Oh, I've never had the experience, but I've always wanted one. Well, if you want one, just hang out with the ghost hunters. Just hang out with people who go out to these UFO encampments, and they go and they look. Those things are there. You just need to look for them. All of those things can be manifested. You just have to be looking for them. And you need people out there that can look and see what you're doing and figure it out. I just think that it's interesting because, I have all these people with these great and wonderful stories, but it doesn't count. A story is a great story. They work near campfires, but it doesn't count unless you have the evidence. People want to see something. And the stuff is out there. Don't get me wrong. But I always say when people call me and they say, hey, Clyde, this happened to me. Did you get it on film? Did you get a picture of it? Can you send me the picture via email? It was funny when Roger Cluton, who was with the Northwest Ghost Recon, oh, by the way, the strange cloud formations with the rainbow slithering and all that stuff, that rainbow blast wave that he said he saw. We're calling them Cluton clouds now. And so if you ever look up and see a Cluton cloud, you know where it originated. But when Roger talked about this, I actually had somebody email me. He posted on my Facebook page saying that he heard or he saw a big flash in the sky, and the same thing happened. That something boomed really loud, and he wanted to know if anyone else experienced it. Well, that's the question. Are we getting these booms? Are we seeing these strange lights? Are people seeing these UFOs? And are they really UFOs? Are you really, 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 looking at them logically? Or are you just saying, oh, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. It's got to be something from outer space. It needs to be said that sometimes our minds can play tricks on us. But still, it's worth reporting and analyzing. It's worth looking at because it just seems to be that more and more people are having the experiences. And a lot of people called tonight, and they gave their experience. I'm still up for listening to them. Just because, James is gone doesn't mean I don't want to hear them. Because I can tell you now, if there's a reason, today, I was at Fat City with my friend Bo, and we were eating. And they actually, there at Fat City, they had told us that the restaurant was haunted. And they were curious if we wanted to do an investigation there. And I said, by all means, I would love to do an investigation there. By all means, I would love to go there, and I'd love to, see, what's haunting the place. Because they say they have a ghost there. And I asked him if it was okay if I brought it up, and I said, yeah, but come on. If there's a ghost there, we'd like to get it on film, or we'd like to get something on tape. And we're always willing to do an investigation, always willing to look into the investigations and make them happen. And see, that's the thing. The only way you're going to know for sure is if you investigate and you verify. If you write down your experience or if you relate your experience on the radio, that's how this information gets out. Otherwise, it becomes silent. And I know a lot of people are uncomfortable giving this information out, but, you know, you need to realize, and I realized this when I was watching the show today, the show with James Fox, there are people who would actually want to get together and discuss what they've seen because they don't want to feel alone. And that's why on this program we give you permission to talk about these things. We give you a reason to talk about these things. We give you the microphone, literally. It's your telephone. You pick up that microphone and you speak into that microphone and you tell us what's going on. It's where you're becoming the media and you're reporting what the media refuses to report. And you're being heard by people who have similar experiences, which also is good for you because you get to hear that you're not alone and these things are happening. 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL. Or 1-877-733-1011. These experiences are real for a lot of people. And they're worth listening to. And believe me, I don't want this conversation to end. I want it to continue. So if you want to call in tonight, 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. I want to tell you quickly, too, that tomorrow night, Peter Lindbergh, the dive team that's gone down into the Baltic Sea to find out what that anomaly is, will be on the program. And you bet, I hope you have questions for him. He's only going to be on for an hour. So I hope you have some questions about this anomaly, and I hope you spread the word about this because this is something that's amazing for Portland. This is something that doesn't happen all the time. We've got this stuff going on. We're getting you that information because we think it's important for you to hear about it. Susan, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. And, you know, you're right. It is very important, and this is not a fringe topic anymore, and it really never was. And, you know, one of the reasons I called in, and I really appreciated James, and I know that something he said was that how sincere these people are that have these stories. He said that early in the interview. Mm-hmm. And it is so true because, as you know, at the UFO Fest at McMinnville, I was collecting stories of people just passing by. Before you showed up at the booth, Clyde, and we were inundated with people coming to see you, I had a whole bunch of people just coming by very quietly, often very timid, and they wanted to talk to somebody, just like you said. And so in a very non-threatening way, you know, they were just anonymously talking about this stuff. They shared any number of things, and most of them were simple sightings, objects they saw that they couldn't explain, of all different shapes, all kinds of lights, many of them in Oregon and Washington and Canada, some, you know, in other parts of the United States. Mm-hmm. But it's their sincerity, Clyde, that really gets you. You know that this is real. And, you know, I even had someone walk up to me in another part of the festival who knew I was doing this, who was in law enforcement, and he really wanted to tell my story. In fact, tell his story. And he came back to me later and he said, "Did you get it?" You know, and it was basically just something he saw in the sky while on patrol somewhere in Oregon. I don't know if I even have it right here, but anyway, it was in the countryside, not that far from McMinnville, and you know, he just very sincerely wanted to share this and to let me know that this is real. And so I really appreciate that people are getting this into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. And, you know, what's really interesting, I've been researching historically what the mainstream media used to report about UFOs. And it's fascinating. If you look around the period about the late 1960s, there were a lot of people from universities and people from the military that would be in stories in mainstream news questioning what was going on and questioning the debunking. And you just don't see that much these days. I know, and it's funny because I was thinking about that. When I was a kid, there was a magazine show called Extra. There were shows, local news shows, whenever this stuff would happen, or there were UFOs, cow mutilations, any of those things, they ran them as serious stories. Mm-hmm. And then one day, a whole generation of editors came in and said, "You're not running with those stories anymore. No one wants to hear about these stories. We want to keep them quiet. And if they do happen, we make fun of them." And I don't know why that happened, but, you know, and that's why, you know, I think that we were seeing TV shows like The X-Files, and we were seeing all these other shows like Sightings come out, because what happened is the editors, you know, decided they weren't worth talking about
And so there were editors, though, that came forward and said, no, these stories are worth talking about. Get the story. It's part of the human experience, and that's what I've been fighting for the 17 years I've been doing Ground Zero. It is part of the human experience. If it's paranormal, so be it. But, this is part of the human experience, seeing a strange light in the sky, experiencing something that you can't describe or understand. And I think that more and more people need to come forward and talk about these things, because this is what makes us who we are. And to deny this and to give the power to the people who claim to be skeptics, the paid people that claim to bring down people and cut them down, I think is just a horrible thing.
It is. And, we need to find courage. I have to admit, when I first started calling Ground Zero, I was pretty self-conscious about it because, I have a scientific background. I have people in this community who might recognize my voice and say, look, that's Susan. She went off the deep end or something. Mm-hmm. And you know what? This is truth. This is true science. Science is not just sitting in a box and not looking outside the box. Science is about paradigm shifts, really. Science is about people making discoveries outside the box. And I'm really tired of being made to feel, and we internalize this feeling that we should be embarrassed because we actually have open minds and are open to investigating the truth.
Right.
I mean, it's actually, the alternative is far worse. And I do hope that more people, and they are, more and more people are coming forward. Like even that law enforcement guy who came and talked to him, he may not have talked openly. I may not have had his name. I didn't ask. But he clearly wanted to communicate. There was someone else who was ex-military who came to talk to me. People know what is truth. No matter how much they try to suppress these things and say that they're fringe, if you have had experiences, if you have done your homework, if you've done the research, I think there are plenty of people in the scientific community who deep down know what is true, and they just don't want to admit it because they'll be mocked by their colleagues.
Right. And the ones doing the mocking probably had experiences themselves. That's another thing that's interesting, is that a lot of them, it's good sport, and you got trolls on the internet that make fun of this stuff. In fact, I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I do on Facebook is if I ever put up a UFO thing and a person says fake and they don't tell me why, I delete it. And the reason why I delete it is because any idiot can say something's fake, but to point out why it's fake is more fascinating than just saying fake or epic fail. And I'm thinking, grow up. Why don't you, if you're going to post something like this, you don't have to post it on my Facebook page or my website, because I will immediately delete it. And I remember I offended some people because of that. They said, well, I wanted to point out. I said, no, that's okay. You can point out whatever you want. But to just say something is fake and not give any explanation as to why, you're being an ass. Definitely an ass. Nothing more. Jackass. You do not belong in a forum and a discussion if you're just going to dismiss something outright.
Absolutely. I didn't tell you at the time. I had someone mock me at the UFO Fest booth.
Really?
Actually, yes. Somebody came up and started telling a story like he was serious. Then, he started laughing at me like, oh, you're taking it seriously, you stupid person. And that was sort of the gist of it. And, the funny thing is it did sound like a lot of the other stories at first. He did this on purpose to make me feel like, to make me feel silly, to make me feel embarrassed. But, it made me feel mad. I don't know.
Oh, it made me mad, too. And if I were there, that guy would have.
He would have been really
I would have yelled that guy down, and I don't care who.
You would have, too.
People think that just because I'm on the radio and that I'm a personality, I have to be nice. No, I don't. I don't have to be nice to you if you're not nice to me. So, and that's the thing is everybody, they say, well, Clyde Lewis did this. Well, you know what? Chances are, if you are being an ass to me, I'm going to be twice as much of one back. I try to be as nice as I can, but, if you're going to be mocking stuff like this, when there are serious people out there that have these experiences, I don't have time for it. I have time for people who are willing to discuss things openly, deeply, and with thought and concern, because this is something that's part of the human experience, and that's why I'm glad you did what you did in McMinnville. Thank you, Susan, for that.
Oh, well, thank you, Clyde. It was a lot of fun. It was great.
You bet. Take care and have a great night.
All right.
Bye-bye. 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL or 1-877-733-1011. We're back with more. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
FM News 101 KXL.
This is not a test. It is the future. Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis.
503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. Go now to Ron. Ron, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
All right, how are you tonight, Clyde?
Good.
Hey, I got a question about meteors and colors. I was out near Bend about 6 months ago, and I saw an object fall from the sky, and falling stars usually have that trajectory across the sky.
Mm-hmm.
This came straight down and was on fire and was bright green. I mean, huge.
Right. Well, usually if it burns bright green, it's because of the ionized oxygen in the air. That's why it burns like that. Ionized oxygen burns green. But anything can produce the ionized green color. The oxygen in the air can produce that when it burns.
Well, when I was reading up on the colors, I thought it said that, that could be like man-made object or, metal. It was
like copper, for example. Well, most fireballs, if they're meteorites or if they're bolides, don't contain copper. So then you could say that maybe it's something with a copper alloy in it that's burning. But most of the time what you're seeing when you're seeing the green fall, you're seeing ionized oxygen burning up in the atmosphere.
Well, now, like the falling stars and that, is it possible for a meteor to fall straight down out of the sky? I've never seen that before.
I don't know.
Like an object was up there and it fell straight down.
I don't know. Usually they do streak across the sky, and something that comes straight down could be debris, but from what? That's the question.
Exactly. That's what I thought. And I thought when I had read up on it, it had to be I thought maybe a satellite or something fell out of the sky out there. And I told my friend I saw an alien spaceship crash, and they just laughed, thought I was a nut.
Well, the thing to remember about most meteorites or bolides is usually 2% of the mass of them usually hit the Earth. If you see anything bigger than that hitting the Earth, then you better duck. I've seen things sometimes the size of school buses coming down out of the sky and hoping they don't hit anywhere soon.
Really, this seemed, it was pretty big. You exaggerate a little bit, but I would say by the time it hit the ground, because it did hit the ground, it was like the size of a bowling ball or something.
Wow.
Are those objects, if you find them, worth anything? Or?
Yeah, but they tell you now you can't touch them. That says a lot, right? Something top secret falling out of the sky. They said, don't go touching one yourself because they become the property of the military. How's that for freaky? Anyway, buddy, thanks for the call. They are worth money, though. Thanks for the call, Ron. Take care. 503-417-9595 or 1-877-733-1011. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
It is literally a supernatural event.
Paramedics, what is the address of the emergency?
I don't know. Let me explain it. I am sitting above Meadow Bay, and I just saw something flame out in the sky. I see no smoke now or anything else, but it was like a bright orange flame going down.
Oh.
And I had no idea what it was.
So you're saying it fell down, fell to earth?
Yeah, probably did. It had a tail, and it had a bright orange ball, and then it went, below.
One day our sun will die, and when it does, we'll go with it.
People throughout Utah are still talking about that space visitor that lit up the sky this morning.
911, what is the address to your emergency?
I'm currently driving, but I just saw a giant blue flash in the sky, and it came down into the city.
It flashed from the west and lit up the whole freaking neighborhood.
Ma'am, I am not kidding you. I am terrified.
Do you see a meteor of this size with this sort of majesty only once every 5 years or so?
It looked like a big fireball.
It was like daylight.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers you call tonight, 503-417-9595. That's 9KXL. 1-877-733-1011. Sharing with us your UFO stories. And We're glad to take your calls tonight. Just want to remind everybody, tomorrow night's a big night for us, especially in this hour. We're going to be interviewing Peter Lindbergh. He is with the Team X, the Ocean Team X, the group that's going down into the Baltic Sea, looking at the anomaly. They can give us some information on that tomorrow night. So be thinking of your questions. He'll only be on for an hour because he's calling in from Sweden, and we're very glad to have him on the program to answer some of your questions. So be sure to have them ready. Spread the word, and we'd love to hear from you tomorrow night. Let's go now to Clint. Clint, hi, you're on Ground Zero.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, Clyde.
Hi.
First, I'd like to say I'd like to thank TiVo for being invented so I can watch that Chasing UFOs on Saturday morning. But that guy that called last hour that saw the bright light, when he called like last week or a couple weeks ago, I was the one that called right after him. I saw the same thing in Goldendale, Washington. Anyway, back in 1986, I saw something that was not of this world. But ever since then, I've had I won't get into detail with premonitions, but I've had like lots of premonitions throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you or anybody you know of has ever heard of any kind of connection between UFO witnesses and having premonitions.
All UFO witnesses and abductees find themselves in a situation where they have psychic abilities, most often than not. And
I've never heard that, but my wife just asked me a couple of days ago if I ever heard that, and I told her I have no idea.
No, it is. It's true.
I had, almost every big event that's happened over my life, like 9/11, there's all kinds of things I have, like dreams or thoughts in my head, like a day or two before it even happens. I had a crazy one for 9/11. I just had it Sunday morning, wake up Monday morning to the 9/11 attacks. Just all kinds of things throughout my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it happens to people. I mean, people who've had these situations, because what they do is, according to a lot of in fact, there was a guy I used to talk to named Bufo Calvin who used to talk about this very thing. And he says what they do is when people have experiences, or they've seen bright lights, or they've been abducted or whatever, and they don't know they've been abducted, usually start having these premonitions, or they have these abilities of remote viewing, or these intuitive feelings. And what they do is they get images in their head. They don't get messages, but they get images, and they can take these images from movies. They can take these images from what they see in their mind's eye when they read books, or from TV shows, and they play over and over in their heads. And this is where they get their intuitive thing. They pop in their head some image or some archetype. It's in archetypes and in visions like that. It's the meme. It's the archetype. It's the metaphor. You have metaphors pop into your head all the time.
Yeah, I've had thousands since like 1986. I've just all kinds, even small things, like a two-digit number. Somebody's gonna give you like a number. Somehow in my head, I know the number before they even say it.
Right.
You know, just small things and big things, like I say, 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I woke up Sunday morning with a nightmare that I opened. I was in a room and I opened a door, and there was people running. There was airplanes on fire. There was buildings on fire. I actually jumped out of bed Sunday morning to that, which I've never jumped out of bed, but it was like a weird nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next morning, Monday morning, is when the 9/11 thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably one of the biggest ones I've ever had, but I've had lots of them, thousands of them.
Right. Now, if you can only win the lottery, then we'll all be happy.
That's my wife keeps telling me. You need to get the numbers. Can't seem to do it.
Give it a shot. See what happens. Thank you, Clint, for calling.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's go to Terry in Salem. Hi, Terry. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, Clyde. You've taken my call before. I was reporting about the Corvallis sighting that I had in September 2001, where I saw a fleet of ships right next to the moon, about 30 to 50 of them, and they were flying in every direction in irregular flight pattern.
Right.
And they would change direction in a blink of an eye, and they would shoot across the sky at thousands of miles per hour and then just vanish and then reappear.
Wow.
And it reminded me of like a swarm of bees, and I watched them for a half an hour. And at about 1:30 a.m., I went out and looked again at the moon, and they were still there, but they had moved to the other side of the moon.
Wow. So what do you think? What do you think it was?
We can't do that. We can't vanish and reappear and disappear, and we can't fly that fast.
But don't you think that maybe it could have been? I mean, did you use any logic here? Did you say, well, maybe it's the clouds doing that, or did you just know for a fact that it was something out of this earth?
I knew for a fact it was a totally clear night. It was dead silent. I looked around at everything else, and everything was normal. I pinched myself because it was so amazing. When you see something like that profound, it's going to change you forever.
Right. Right. Well, that's great. I mean, and then what you do is you make sure, though, that when you have sightings such as these, you record them, you write them in a diary, and you try to make sure that, you try to figure out what they can be. And you know what they aren't. You just got to figure out what they can be or what they may be, too, as well. It's one of those things. I mean, every sighting that I've ever experienced, every ghost encounter I've ever experienced, I've always tried to find a logical explanation, and I struggle with that all the time. Was I hallucinating? Was I, that kind of thing. So you need to, I don't know if you have that struggle when you look at these things, but I always have that struggle.
No, this was so, in your face, so clear, so, oh my God, this is really happening.
Wow.
I have no doubt about it.
Well, I thank you for your call, Terry, and, it's just amazing when people see things like this. I always wonder what they may be or what was going through your head when you saw those things.
I was in absolute shock.
I can imagine you were. Thank you, Terry, for the call. What's that?
Thank you, Clyde.
You bet.
Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
You too. Bye-bye. Let's go down to Michael. Michael, how you're on Ground Zero?
Hey, Clyde. First of all, I just want to say that. Huh? Am I okay?
Yeah, I just said, hey, what's up?
Oh, okay. You broke up for a minute. Okay.
Go ahead.
I want to say I'm really glad that you addressed the whole paid disinformant, paid skeptic, paid troll thing.
Paid jerk.
There's not a lot of people talk about that, but it really is like this. It's becoming like this epidemic on the internet. It's like you can't have a discussion anywhere. It's like the second post on anything is just like, Jesus, Barack Obama politics is fake. It just divert everything.
Oh, yeah.
Divert the argument.
Everything goes. You're right. Everything goes to Barack Obama or something like that, and it's because people feel as though that they want to disrupt a conversation with just pure BS. And I think that it just really sickens me that politics play that big of a deal in our lives when they're all fake. I mean, politics are more fake than UFOs, and that's the thing I find most interesting of all. Is that any time, like, for example, they did that poll about Obama being able to handle the aliens more than Mitt Romney. I thought, you know what? No, he can't. No, he can't. I mean, he can't even handle real aliens, let alone the ones that we think are coming. And I just sit there and say to myself, and then of course this whole healthcare thing today, which I've avoided, thank God, because I've talked about this before, and everybody's like all up in arms about it. Of course, you should be up in arms about it. You should be up in arms at the fact that they're going to get their little database. They're going to get that electronic database that Zbigniew Brzezinski wanted for the chessboard and that they've wanted for so long now. They're going to get their database now. It's called Medical Surveillance Society, and that's exactly what they've wanted for a long time, and you're going to be a part of it. We're all going to be a part of it now. We're going to be required to have our blood in a database, have our DNA in a database. That's what they're shooting for. And I've talked about this before, and that's why people say, well, why don't you talk about that? I'll tell you why. Because I talked about it, and I warned people that it was going to happen, and now it's happening.
Yeah, what people need to understand, people need to stop falling for this diversionary tactics. Like, the emails, the H.B. Gary emails came in late 2010. We know that the Pentagon has been doing this for at least a decade. They have entire divisions devoted to what they call consensus management, or DARPA creating consensus through manipulating public opinion with fake people.
Mm-hmm.
This is not real. These comment sections are jokes. These people, the Pentagon put in orders for software programs.
Oh, yeah.
To allow a single employee to manage thousands of different personas with different IP addresses, different grounds, fabricated profiles to make it look like they're real people. These are fake people. They're just there to divert issues.
Yeah, they want to do that because they want to be able to control the conversation to go in their direction, and I'm fed up. In fact, it takes a real loser to be a person who shouts fake all the time. It takes a real loser. It takes a real loser to be a follower of the amazing Randy, who's not very amazing. He's a magician.
Wait.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
I have to comment on that. The whole public opinion on skeptics versus, quote unquote true believers has been so skewed by propaganda. It's like people in pop culture, they give you the impression that UFO witnesses are millionaires who are sailing around on yachts and going, we fooled all these people with our UFO hoax. We're living a good life. We're writing UFO books, and skeptics are like the the good scientific warriors who are fighting for the truth. And in reality, it's the complete opposite. The amount of people that are making a living studying UFOs can fit in a symbol.
Yeah, Michael.
You have to work your butt off.
You look at Michael Shermer; he's getting paid to be a skeptic.
Exactly.
You look at idiots like Phil Plait, who I'll say on the record is a freaking idiot. You know why he's an idiot? Because I have asked him to come on my show many times to talk to me, and you know what he said? And I said to him, I said, I'll give you a fair shake. No problem. I'll give you a fair shake. He says, no, I don't want to come on your show because I have a feeling you're going to corner me. And I'm saying, you know what? I'm a high school graduate, you moron. You're supposed to be some sort of scientific wonderkind who's writing these comments. You call yourself the bad astronomer, and now he's the heir apparent to Randy. And I'm like going, good for you, you moron. Go play with Randy, the little magician who does nothing but bitch and moan about how everything's fake, and he offers $1 million for proof of anything. And when you give him the proof, he says, well, that doesn't fit my criteria. Screw you, Randy. Screw you, Plate. Screw you, Shermer. You can all go to hell.
And they've co-opted the title of skeptic. I mean, these people are not skeptics. What they are is the exact opposite of a skeptic. They're people that have already made their minds up.
Right.
And are then seeking evidence that supports their hypothesis.
Oh, of course.
They're essentially pseudo-skeptics.
Right.
Skeptics, what we call skeptics, are pseudo-skeptics, and the people like you and I who actually accept information at its face value and don't pass judgment on it because of the content of it are the real skeptics. And it's
That's right.
Again, it's just like we're living in Twilight Zone, where everything's the opposite of what it actually is.
Yeah, skepticism used to mean you're curious. It doesn't mean you're committing. It just means you're curious. And people, always have the question, too. They always say, well, do you believe everything you talk about? And I'm like going, do I have to believe everything I talk about? Do I really have to have faith in all the things I talk about? No, you know what? I report them, and I investigate them. And if something comes up true, that makes it more fascinating. If I report it, it's fascinating. I'm not investigating what I want to believe. I'm investigating what is. I'm investigating the human experience. I'm investigating the paranormal. Why can't we just do that? Why can't we just say to ourselves, hey, I'm curious. I'm looking into this. I don't know if I'm committing to it, but by damn, there's something up in the sky right now that doesn't look like it belongs on this planet. God, we better look into this thing. I don't know if it's a UFO or a Chinese lantern, but it sure is giving me the willies, damn it. I mean, that's freedom.
Yeah, and let me say this, too. It's like so much of the public opinion on UFOs. I mean, if you go back to the 50s and 60s, they said, hey, we're going to discredit UFOs by mocking it and making fun of it. And it was probably one of the most successful propaganda campaigns in history because they've done it and it's worked in spades. And so much of the public perception is based on Hollywood propaganda and complete misinterpretation of things. Mm-hmm. Even the smartest people. Can I quote, please? Stephen Hawking in 2008 was talking about aliens at one of his lectures and hypothetical scenarios of if we come in contact with aliens. And he lays out his little idea, and then he says, well, obviously we haven't been in contact with any kind of aliens, and I completely disregard UFO reports because if aliens were real, why would they only reveal themselves to cranks and weirdos? And this is one of the smartest men on the planet.
Right.
There's like 1,000 things wrong with that statement, and let me give you like 2 of them. UFO doesn't mean alien spaceship. It means unidentified flying object. And second of all, Stephen Hawking has to understand that military pilots, generals, presidents, nuclear technicians have all seen UFOs. So he's not talking about UFOs. What he's talking about is George Adamski-style contactee, Pleiadian brotherhood landing in my backyard and telling me things. Mm-hmm. But he's saying UFO. All UFO means is unidentified flying object. It doesn't mean Venusians talking to you. It doesn't mean aliens. It doesn't mean any of that. He just says, why would aliens only reveal themselves to cranks and weirdos? He's not talking about people that see UFO. He's talking about these, contactees. Mm-hmm. It's just everything he says is a misconception completely.
Oh, yeah, the whole thing is being held together by people who have misconceptions about what it's all about. And they're not even willing to take the time to listen. They just want to shut everything down and shut the argument down with their little stupid ideas of what it might be. The truth is out there. No, I tell you what, shut up.
And people have made their minds up so much where it's like, it's literally to the point where if you go up to a man on the street and be like, hey, what do you think about UFOs? I don't believe in aliens. You know, like the concepts have been so married in the minds of pop culture through movies and propaganda.
Right.
It's like, really, this is like an amazing phenomenon that we should be studying for exactly what it is. You know, and it's like, in a way, it's like they made it not unidentified. They said it's alien spacecraft, and then so it's like they diverted the topic of what do you think about UFOs into do you believe in little green men? You know, it's like two things have nothing to do with one another.
Well, it's always a trick question.
It's the most furious of connections.
Right, always a trick question. When they say, do you believe in UFOs? I say, yes, I believe that there are unidentified flying objects that fly around. Now, if you ask me whether or not aliens are piloting all those craft, I don't know. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. I don't have anything to compare it to, and neither do you. And so I'm going to be a militant agnostic for you right now. So you don't know, and I don't know either, jerk. So shut up. Leave me alone. So anyway, thanks for the call, Michael.
All right,
take care. Bye-bye. It's true. I mean, it's militant agnosticism. You know, if somebody wants to trick you into something like this, you just say to them, hey, I don't know, neither do you, so back off. Got my own feelings, got my own beliefs, and mine are my own and they're my own personal. That's freedom. Freedom to tell somebody, hey, don't step on my beliefs. We'll be back. Keep it here on Ground Zero.
KXL After Dark with Clyde Lewis at 9. You want to believe. Phil Hendry at midnight. You can't believe.
It with Clyde Lewis on FM News 101.
I'd like to thank y'all for calling in tonight, and I'd like to thank my guest, James Fox, Chasing UFOs, National Geographic. The reason why we're getting all these great guests is because of you and the support of this program. And I'm so glad there are people out there listening and they're taking part in the program. Tomorrow especially, I know it's a Friday, and being a Friday, it's difficult sometimes to grab a listen to the show, but in the last hour, we have the icing on the cake. We have Peter Lindbergh on the program from Sweden, talking to us directly about the Baltic Sea anomaly, what it may be, what he thinks it is. So if you have any questions, please have them ready and be ready to call tomorrow night. That'll be at 11 o'clock. He'll be on the program. In the meantime, we'll have some other stuff ready for you and some other stuff to talk about as well. Once again, thank you for listening to the program. We'll see you tomorrow night in Ground Zero. Good night.
FM News 101 KX.